Good morning, everybody. My name is Caroline Calloway. I'm a senior journalism student here at the Meek School and also one of Dr. Husney's students. It is my pleasure this morning to introduce to you Scott Coffman, SVP of Retail with Lumina Media, formerly i5 Publishing, a leading publisher of pet and farm-related content. Scott is responsible for the strategic direction of newsstand sales at Lumina Media. Prior to Lumina Media, Scott was SVP of Sales for Source Intralink Companies, one of the largest magazine wholesalers in the country. Formerly, Scott was VP of Marketing and Retail for a chain of 275 stores. This experience gives him a unique perspective, having viewed the magazine business from different sides. Please join me in welcoming Scott Coffman.
Good morning. How's everybody? Morning. So normally I don't speak in front of large groups like this, so I probably get a little nervous about speaking in front of a large group. And I was talking to my sister last night about it, and she said, just imagine everybody in the crowd naked. So Gil, would you mind going back a row? Just kidding. No, actually, it's good to be here. This actually is home for me in a way. I actually lived in Jackson, Mississippi for about 12 years. My wife is from Mississippi. We now live in Florida. So I was one of those damn Yankees, the ones that came and stayed. But love Mississippi, love my time here, and feel very comfortable here. So it's great to be here. And I was a little nervous about being here, quite frankly, because I had an issue at the airport. Samir, you mentioned another story this morning about, I think with Liz, with her airport troubles. Actually, when I checked into the airport in Fort Myers to fly up here, I actually invested in one of those frequent traveler cards. You can get through the TSA. And for those of you that travel a lot, if you don't have it, I really recommend you get it. They're very, very helpful. So I thought I'd be a big shot, and as they're checking my ID at check-in, I gave them my TSA card. And the lady, that checks your card, she kind of looked at it and then talked into her microphone. And I'm thinking, okay, she probably just doesn't know this card. So soon, another gentleman shows up, evidently her boss, and he asked me to come off to the side. And he's looking at my card, and he's looking at me, and he says, "Sir, what department are you with?" And I said, circulation? No, what department? I said, excuse me? So he kind of showed me the card, and it happened to be my concealed weapon permit card that I gave. So I think he was asking me if I was with the FBI. So anyway, we got that straightened out, and I was able to get on the plane, so here I am. So it's great to be here, like I said. I want to talk just briefly about Lumina Media. And before I start, I just want to say 3 words which I think all the publishers and, well, everybody, all stakeholders in this business would agree with, and that is media is hard. I think we would all agree with that, and we're not just talking about the magazine business, we're talking about all forms of media right now. It's not an easy business. But to that end, I think there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of potential, and media is going to be around for years and years. We rebranded our company recently. We used to be known as i5 Publishing. Now, just to tell you real quickly, back in early 2013, our owner, David Fry, whose family is the owners of Fry Communication, one of the largest printers in the country. Anyway, David acquired Bowtie Publishing, and Bowtie was the founding company of Lumina Media. And at the time when they acquired Bowtie, they got to the point where they had to actually put a name on the agreements of the company. So David and his partners were thinking, okay, now what are we going to call ourselves? And the office happened to be right next to Interstate 5 in California, so that's how they came up with i5 Publishing. Not the most innovative name. And to hear David say it, well, that was just going to be a temporary placeholder, and then 3 years later, there we were, still with iPhone Publishing. So we actually commissioned a marketing company and came up with our new brand, which is Lumina Media. We love the brand, we love the logo, and really, it really talks to and speaks to how at Lumina Media we have passionate and enthusiastic readers. Now this tells you a little bit about some of our brands. Some you may be familiar with. Our major brands are in the pet and farm area, although we do have, some automotive titles. I just want to mention too that we just introduced a digital version. There was some discussion yesterday about digital only properties. Lucky Puppy is our new digital version. We also created a new pet search website called Petya. It's been around a little more than a year now. And Petya is now the #2 pet search site in the country in less than a year. And it's unique because it combines both shelter and breeder pets. Usually you go to pet search sites and they're just shelters pets. So we also have VPN, which is a business-to-business property, which isn't listed here, and it's a veterinary practice news title. Okay, now I'm going to do my Marco Rubio impression.
What big hands you have.
I'm not going to go there, Samir. This presentation is really going to be on 2 sections. The first is I want to talk a little bit about ideas on how we can grow newsstand sales. And the second is kind of an overview on the transition we recently did of our 2 major flagship titles, Dog Fancy and Cat Fancy, to Dogster and Catster. So, in the famous words of James Stockdale, who am I and why am I here? Some of you remember that, okay. Some our age remember that. Actually, as was mentioned, I got my start in this business on the retail side. I spent 15 years working for different retailers. In fact, when I lived in Mississippi, I was working for a retail chain. And most recently, I was a VP of marketing for Sunshine Junior Stores, based out of Florida. Left there and got into the magazine business. Why, I don't know. But anyway, spent 20 years on the magazine wholesale side, most recently for Source Interlink Companies, which some of you know, and please, if you're a publisher, don't hold that against me. And then, of course, over the last 2 years with Lumina Media. And it's actually given me a very good perspective, having seen our business from really all 3 sides. I also have taught management courses, business management courses, college courses online. So if you're a student, please don't hold that against me. And I did get my master's degree at Florida State. Who happens to play Ole Miss first next year? I won't tell you where my allegiance is. So again, as I mentioned, I'm looking at this really from 3 different views, and I just want to talk briefly about this. Retailers today are under increasing pressure that really they haven't faced before. Actually, back in my time, we didn't face these kind of pressures. Pressures from online sites, particularly. They're under extreme pressure to try and maximize sales per space. And often buyers for retailers are handling multiple categories. So magazines get a scant amount of attention from a lot of the buyers that we deal with. And so they want and need direction. And that's actually puts us in a good position if you think about it. The wholesaler community. Having worked in that business over the last 15 years, I can tell you it's a very, very difficult business. The wholesaler takes much of the risk. There's built-in costs And those wholesalers depend on our product selling, so they're dependent on our quality and our content. The wholesaler does most of the heavy lifting, although I'm not saying that we don't do, as publishers, a lot of lifting. Wholesalers do a lot of the lifting in the sense that those trucks that David Perry showed you yesterday, the cost of those trucks has not gone down over the last 5 years, but yet revenue has decreased 50%. So think about that. That's put enormous pressure on the wholesale community. And then, of course, as publishers, we know what our challenges are. So I wanted to just briefly talk about really how we can grow sales in the newsstand channel. Because too often I think the focus is on cutting costs. And obviously that's important, but we really need to be focused more than anything on how to generate more sales. The first thing is we need to change the story. Too often, and I've been guilty of this, as probably have most people in this room, we've communicated or kind of fallen into the trap that the category is in a steep decline, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, sales will continue to decline. We need to be more aggressive and we need to be more confident. We've seen some recent reversals of trends, and I think with the right approach, we can continue that. There also needs to be more long-term planning and vision. We need to plan not just for 2 to 3 years, we need to plan for 30 years. And one thing that I notice that's pretty apparent to me when I go to different magazine conferences, like the PBA conference or the MPA conference, there's a lot of folks my age at those conferences. We don't have a lot of folks at the college student age or recently out of college. And when that happens, I believe, we get a lot of folks who are working on plans for 2 to 3 years and not 30 years. And that's real important. So in our publishing world, I can tell you within our publishing office, there are a lot of young, vibrant people. And we need to get a lot of those folks working on the newsstand channel. Also, we need to be more proactive. The wholesalers really do need our support. Too often we depend on the wholesaler to come to us for help with different retailers, different programs. We need to be more proactive and go to them, and we need to start early. And by that I mean we should already be working with wholesalers on programs for 2017 in a lot of these retail accounts. So I want to offer what I think is one suggestion on how to grow newsstand sales. This is not a silver bullet. There's no magic answer, but it really, from my experience, helps in trying to grow sales at the newsstand. One is choose, as a publisher, choose one or more of your larger retail customers or those customers that you share the same customers, the same readers. Where do your readers shop? That's who you should focus on. Now, we're fortunate, Lumina Media, because we have some titles with very passionate readers, and we know specifically where they shop. In the example I showed you a while ago was Tractor Supply Company, and Tractor Supply is a customer, a retailer that actually creates a promotion every year called Chick Days. And that's a promotion where they actually sell live baby chickens and baby ducks, and it's held this time every year during the spring. In fact, there's a Tractor Supply right off, if you came the interstate from Memphis, right off the interstate. So if you want to see some live baby ducks and chickens, there you go. So we actually work very closely with Tractor Supply. We review their marketing plans and obviously know about this Chick Days promotion. And one thing that we do is we bring our editors into the discussion to develop content for these retailers to support their marketing plan. So I'm reminded of another retailer that I dealt with back in the early days of Source. And this was a major retailer. They weren't carrying magazines. They started a program, and the buyer handled, she also buys for books. And when I would come in with the different folks from the newsstand channel and present to her, she would ask, where are the editors? Where are the people developing the content? These are the folks that we need to talk to. And I tell you, it was a struggle over the years to try and bring those folks in. But we did have many that ended up working closely with us on that. A couple that come to mind are Hearst Publications, Consumer Reports, August Home, who was mentioned yesterday. So they got it. They came in, worked with us on developing content, and that retailer, over the last 8 years, while the industry was declining, close to 50%, that retailer had next to zero decline in sales. And I think it was because we really worked hard on bringing in content for that retailer. So the wholesaler needs our support. They I believe, have undergone a lot of pressures themselves, as was seen yesterday, and have had to cut back and have fewer people doing more work. So they need us to be more proactive and come to them with concepts and ideas. I would strongly recommend that you work with a wholesaler to incorporate some of your ideas on developing content that they can then present to the retailer. And always involve the wholesaler when working with a retailer. Don't try and deal with a retailer without the wholesaler, because they've got to implement the program. Another opportunity is to look for additional display space. So in this example here, this display that you see up in the upper right is actually some product that we developed to support that Chick Days promotion in Tractor Supply stores. And they're under increasing pressure, as all retailers are, in being able to provide space, especially floor space, for displays. Now, it's no secret, the more displays you get in, the more chances you're going to increase sales. So knowing that the buyer is under this kind of pressure, we've actually come to him, and it's hard to see, but that fence you see there surrounds the Chick Days display. So we've actually come to them with a concept of creating a rack that would fit off of that wire fence, and therefore free up that floor space for them, and actually give us an even better spot for the promotion. And by the way, he's very, very appreciative of that. The other thing is it does open up opportunities to create partnership with common advertisers. It's okay to ask for, from the retailer, who are some of the other CPG companies participating in the promotion, and look at opportunities to maybe do a dual promotion with those advertisers. Now, this is something that's become even more apparent to me recently, and that is retailers need a lot of help with their own sites on content. And this is an opportunity as a publisher to use that to your advantage. A retailer, in return for providing some content, may provide you additional space in the store or some promotional activity, or even, in the case of Tractor Supply with us, where they might advertise with you. So it's also a good idea to support any other publishers in the program who might want to do that, because it makes the entire category stronger in the eyes of the buyer. The other thing we can do is promote our the sales of the product in those retail stores via our own social sites. So here's an example of a Facebook site where we direct customers on our site to the Tractor Supply store to buy that product. And probably the most important, which frankly I didn't hear, I don't think I heard anybody mention yesterday, but one of the most important selling tools to the retailer is how our products drive sales of other products in their stores. And this is real important. And, you know, it's easy, this particular promotion that I focused on, the Chick Days promotion, is easier to quantify because a lot of these titles, for example, one is called Chickens 101, where basically it trains or tells you everything you need to know about raising a chicken. So there's a lot of customers of theirs that are, quote, on the fence, excuse the pun, and they are making that purchase because our product's there and they feel more comfortable making that purchase with our product. Not only the live chicks and ducks, but all the things necessary to house and feed those chicks and ducks, which of course are sold at the store. So I've actually asked this retailer for data on purchases associated with our product, and they've committed to me that they're going to provide that to me at the end of this promotion. We need to do more of that as publishers so that we can go back and use that to generate more promotions. And then in doing all these programs with a retailer, it also creates that partnership, and they come to you with concepts and ideas. And this is actually some product that we developed that was brand new product based on a request from the retailer. So the retailer came to us and said, you know, we have a lot of customers who, you know, spend their time in the barn or outside, and what about some product that could be used outside, you know, that doesn't wear with the weather, that they could hang in the barn? And we actually created these little laminated guides on different subjects and just put those in the store. So it's actually created some new product. We created some new content based on feedback from the retail. All right, so now I'm going to transition from that to a couple of our flagship titles. And I want to talk briefly about Dogster and Catster. You know, earlier we heard from Sharon who talked about a brand being around for 225 years. That's amazing to me. These are actually, we had two brands that had been around for 50 years, Dog Fancy and Cat Fancy. And rather than rebrand, we kind of transitioned these titles and created two new brands from there called Dogster and Catster. This is kind of a mix between, you know, you've got a 225-year-old brand who stands the test of time, and you know, this afternoon we're going to hear from new introductions, you know, like Big Life and Marijuana Ventures. So this is kind of a hybrid of that. So why did we do it? Well, we had these two brands, Dog Fancy and Cat Fancy, who's had a very negative sales trend. The perception, based on research we had, was that the brands were too stodgy, not fun enough, not personable enough, not modern enough. Our audience certainly has evolved and the preferences shifted. And we needed to make the brands more relatable and most importantly, make it so that the customers would pick up the copy. And so our ultimate goal, of course, was to keep all existing readers and add new. And that's quite a goal if you think about it. So we actually acquired two new sites, Catster and Dogster.com. And we then created these titles from those sites and actually transitioned Cat Fancy and Dog Fancy to those. It's quite a bold move. Those brands had been around for 50 years. Now, what changed? Well, and a lot of this was talked about yesterday, but we went with shorter articles, more reader entry points, you know, like call-outs and sidebars. We increased our page count by 25%. More listicle type articles. And on the content, we kept a third, basically a third of the content from the fancy publications, Dog Fancy, Cat Fancy, but reformatted them in a little different format. Here's an example here of what we used to call a breeder profile, which we changed to who's that dog or who's that cat. So on the left is how it looked in Dog Fancy, and to the right is how it looks in Dogster. We also created a new reader feedback section called Confessions, which has been very popular. So we also pulled about a third of the content from our digital sites. And by that I mean we gave it a little bit of the look of the digital site without it mirroring it exactly. And it brought in a lot of, increased the number of variety of writers for our content. You can't really tell, but that little puppy is actually on somebody's hand. It's so cute. I wish you could see the bigger picture of it. Anyway, the other thing we did was add a lifestyle section. And everybody talks about lifestyle, I know, but we created a section called Obsessions, which there's an example there of people who have taken old cardboard boxes and created little kitty homes out of it. We have tourism sections where we focus on ecotourism, pet tourism, volunteer tourism, all to do with pets. Believe it or not, that's huge business. We have new money-saving columns and quiz sections. So we also changed our look on our covers and our photos. We included more action photos and photos with more personality, as you can probably tell there. Really, the question we ask ourselves is, would you show this photo to your friends? Now, I can't ever imagine a Dog Fancy coming out with a dog poop issue, but we have with Dogster. But you can see they're fun, they're inviting, they're young, and that cat holiday issue was the top-selling Catster issue so far. We also changed the language and tone in the product. We're using more personal and emotional language, written more in a personal, first-hand point of view, more relaxed. The example, instead of a teacher talking to you, now it's your best friend or family member. Instead of, as an example, it is important that your dog must have water. Now it's like, make sure your dog has plenty to drink. So those are examples of how we changed the language in the new title. So some of the testimonials we got from the customers with the change, and by the way, the feedback we got was 98% positive, which was very heartwarming for us. I love the new magazine, it's great. I can tell you how much work you put into making it so informative. Down below that, not to offend anyone, but I used to actually dread opening Cat Fancy. That's not a good one. But anyway, very happy with it. To the right, I was an old Cat Fancy subscriber, but stopped because it got boring. Same old, same old. I really like its reincarnation. And then finally, I just received your new magazine. I love it. I've had Cat Fancy for many years. In the past, I finished it in 5 minutes. Now I read every article and enjoy your new format. So we had some very strong positive feedback so far. And probably the most important thing as it relates to the newsstand, here are the results since we made the change. And the change occurred mid last year. So far in Catster, sales are up almost double, and Dogster close to the same. So very positive results. And then I just wanted to also share with you real quick a little short video, because who doesn't like videos of dogs and cats, right? Oops. Samir, you gotta have it.
Oops. That's double oops. It's just like a magazine. You can go forward and backward. And
Should we get one of your students to help you?
please.
There we go.
Cause you're a sky full of stars. I'm gonna give you my heart. Cause you're a sky full of stars. Cause you light up the park. I don't care, go on and tear me apart.
So that's it. Thank you very much.